audience. I am Montana, Director of Marketing at Maverick Wine Company, and we are so excited to be having you guys here online with us tonight with our amazing group of producers. We are so especially grateful to have these guys here tonight, considering we are in the middle of harvest. This is the busiest time of year for wine producers, of course, and there's a lot going on, right? We've had a crazy year, so these events are really intended to provide you guys an opportunity to get out of your house while being at home. So you're having a virtual travel experience, and tonight it is our California road trip. So I'm going to quickly introduce you to our three guest producers. So happy to have each of them here. First, we have Mr. Todd Graff from Frank Family Vineyards in Napa Valley, California. And you guys have an assortment of wines from Todd, assortment from each of them, but the first wines that we'll be tasting and going through are going to be from Todd at Frank Family. Then we go over to beautiful Sonoma County with Baron Ziegler in his shades, sitting out in the sunshine with Valravn wines. So again, nice little lineup from Valravn. We will check in with Baron second. And then last but certainly not least, we will be traveling about 5 hours south to Mr. Peter Stolpman in Ballard Canyon, with Stolpman Vineyards. So he will be presenting his namesake wines. Gentlemen, I am so grateful to all of you for being here. Thank you so much. We know that this is a crazy time of year. There's a lot going on in California, and you've made the time to be with us here in Colorado. So thank you so much. As we know, there are wildfires burning in California, and we really want to focus on the wines tonight and the people and the things that they have created for us to drink here tonight and share. But we are also sort of working in our noble purpose for this event and offering the opportunity to contribute, if you would wish to our GoFundMe account. We have created, we are raising funds to support people that have been displaced by the fires, both here in Colorado as well as in California. Looking out the windows at my house today, we are having a smoky afternoon, but it's nothing compared to what these guys are dealing with out there. So a little bit goes a long way. If you have anything you can contribute, I will put the link to the GoFundMe in the comments in the chat, so you can click there if you would like to contribute even a few dollars. That'd be fantastic. And some of our retail partners have been generous to also contribute $1 per bottle, as well as us matching that. So thank you very much to those retailers that are participating in that way. So without further ado, let's get to Napa. I had the good luck and fortune of being out in Napa about 3 weeks ago now with Todd, sitting on the patio tasting wine at Frank Family. They're sort of in the northern part of the valley. I'll let Todd tell you guys all about it, but pull out your Frank Family wines. I have the Cabernet Sauvignon here with me tonight, and we'll let Todd tell us all about Frank Family Vineyards.
Great, thanks, Montana. Hey, welcome everybody. These things work great when they're interactive, so please shoot Montana as many questions as you can, and the three of us can keep this lively and entertaining, I hope. And I hope you're opening some bottle of wine. Doesn't have to be Frank Family. Hopefully it's somebody's. Just join in and have a good evening. Out here in Napa, you know, middle of harvest. We've got our curveball coming at us right now. Harvest is always challenging, and we think as wine veterans, we've seen everything, and then every year throws us something else we haven't seen, and then we're rookies again. So this is a rookie year for us, and we're going to learn a hell of a lot out of it. So we're silver lining this whole thing, and we're going to learn a ton about this stuff. But Frank Family, we're lucky. We've got this great facility up in Calistoga, just south of the town of Calistoga, if you know Napa Valley. It's 30 miles long, couple miles wide. Carneros is the coolest part of the valley. We own 80 acres down there where we pool our Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. We work with some great growers down there also, so it's not just estate fruit. Names that you would know, the Beckstoffer family, the San Giacomo family, Lee Hudson, and some small mom and pop growers also. So some great individual relationships where this whole story is going to come back eventually to relationships and dealing with grape growing, winemaking, and a typical harvest or an untypical harvest or atypical harvest. So we have 80 acres down at Carneros. Then we moved north. We have 2 ranches in Rutherford, and I'm sitting at one of them. I'm on Winston Hill right now, which is our flagship vineyard. And then across the road, I like to say it's a 9-iron, but I know it's like 5 drivers for me, but I pretend it's a 9-iron from here. But you can see it from here anyway. Another vineyard in Rutherford, the Benjamin Vineyard. Then we have one east of Atlas Peak called S&J out in Capel Valley. So that makes up the foundation of our wines, is our 4 vineyards. We farm about 250 acres. And then we have a facility up in Calistoga, which is a state historic landmark. For the 40 years before us, it was Hans Cornell. So if anybody's old enough to know Hans Cornell Bubbly, they were all over the place in the early. He was one of the first Renaissance guys of Napa, actually, German immigrant that came over here and started producing the sparkling wine in a German way. We do a little bit of bubbles too, but my experience has been at Schramsberg and at Cutter New Napa, so which is our Tessin now. So it's more the French method, more champagne style. So we do a little bit of bubbles and have fun with that. Mainly tasting room. Tasting room's a hit. It's a great old craftsman house in Calistoga under a bunch of 100-year-old elm trees. So please come out and visit us. Varieties, we make everything we grow. So 50% of the people think we're a Chardonnay house, and I would guess 50% think we're a Cabernet house. So traditional Napa, Chardonnay, of course, from Carneros. Napa, of course, majority from Rutherford. But we purchase fruit also from some great growers. Cabernet we purchase, again, great relationship with the Beckstoffer family, the McDonald family from Round Pond. You'll hear names, the Kroll family, Terraces, Quarry Vineyard. So, we all work together and buy fruit from each other, make wine with each other. And it really pays off when things get a little dicey and challenging. We're all pulling in together and spending the nights helping each other out. So it's fun.
Well, teamwork really pulls it all together. And I would definitely say that the thing that stands out to me for Frank Family Wines and has always stood out to me for a Napa producer, and I think a lot of you guys, whichever wine you're tasting, you'll notice this in the wines. There's an elegance that I really so appreciate from what Todd does with the grape varieties. He really takes what's already wonderfully created by nature and turns it into something that's just so elegant and refined. And you can get these Cabernets, Chardonnays from Napa that are just very over the top. And I find these wines to be so beautifully balanced. And I think that has to do with your history as a sparkling winemaker. There's a finesse, but it also has to do with taking the different places that you're sourcing fruit from and putting them into the right type of blends and really in the pursuit of balance. Do you have anything that kind of motivates your decisions as a winemaker as far as a little bit of hands off versus what you choose to manipulate?
No, as far as hands off, I make wines I like to drink. So I'm fortunate that there's several people out there across the country that like to drink that kind too. So, I don't buy any of the wines, so there better be somebody else that likes them. So I make wines I like to drink, and it's fun too. And then, we're trying to be typicity. So we want our Cabernet to taste like Cabernet. We want to compete against the great brands of Napa Valley. We want to compete against the great brands that make Chardonnay or Cabernet. We do Pinot, we do Zin, and then we try to focus on vineyards. So Zin, we focus on Childs Valley. It's a little arm off of Napa Valley. It's one of our many appellations. The Nicolini family who've been farming there since 1800s. I joke to them all the time that if you guys would have just traveled another half hour, you would have been in Rutherford, but no, you had to stop in Childs. So they've got this great Zin out there and Nicolini Sinceri families. We focus on what grows well at that region. We're a Napa brand, but We make Zin from Childs, Chard Pinot from Carneros, Cab Rutherford. So we're not trying to mix that, jumble it up. We've learned over the years, let's make what grows well in each region. So I think that's it. And then make wines you like to drink.
Well, we're so lucky that in Colorado, we do get a little bit of your sparkling wine, the Blanc de Blanc and the Rosé that you make. But I think most people tonight are probably either having your Chardonnay or your Cabernet Sauvignon. And I already see someone in the comments that they're having the Zinfandel. And also some of you might have Pinot. So would you just touch on, just kind of go through your lineup a little bit and tell us a little bit about maybe start with Chardonnay and just a little bit of background on the wines.
Great. So I'll start with sparkling because it doesn't get out much at all, but we're trying to be a grower producer. We're trying to be a California grower producer, grow the fruit. We do all the sparkling ourselves. Again, I spent 10 years only doing sparkling wine. It's fun not to only do sparkling wine. It's a good hobby. We do sparkling. We do 4 cuvées, a Blanc de Blanc from Chardonnay, Vineyard Designate from our property, Brut Rosé, a Tête de Cuvée we call Lady Edith, named after Rich's mom, and then we do a Rouge, so a sparkling Pinot Noir, kind of like a sparkling Burgundy, if you would. So some fun wine. So sparkling's fun. Do just a little bit, majority out of the tasting room, and then we move into the wheelhouse of Chardonnay. Again, I talked about Carneros, the growers. It's our largest single producer. Chardonnay, we do, and with everything we do, a Napa Valley version, and then we do an estate version, a Vineyard Designate also. So we do our Carneros Chardonnay, and then we have our Reserve Chardonnay from the Lewis Vineyard. Little different styles, little different blocks. Historically, I've been making wine at Frank Family for 18 years, so it's all trial and error. So it looks simple now, but it wasn't always at the beginning. But so we have the 2 Chardonnays. The Reserve leaks out into the wholesale market a little bit, but our workhorse is the Carneros Chardonnay. And I think you'll see it. It's barrel fermented, great vineyards, but with acidity. So it's not clumsy, it's not fat. It's a balance. You talked about pursuit of balance. We're not trying to be that. We just do that. We want wines that we want to drink. Chardonnay, then Pinot Noirs, it's sibling. It's all the same growers, same neighborhoods, just different blocks right next to each other. We do that. Zinfandel's fun. We're not trying to make a super bomb out of the Zin. We're trying to make a wine that we want to have with dinner. And we want you to drink the whole bottle. We don't want just one glass and a nap. So we have pretty balanced Zin. We're a French oak house, even with our Zinfandel. So everything we make touches a barrel for a while. And we have the bottling, like I said, with the sparkling. We do it all ourselves. We don't farm any of that out. Everything we do ourselves, which is kind of fun and exciting because we touch everything. And then the other workhorse is Cabernet. And that's where we have some great properties. The one I'm on right now, Winston Hill, is the flagship, first vineyard bought by Rich Frank. This thing, I just harvested and get out of the way. It makes great wine. We have several wines from this. We have a Rutherford wine. We have a Winston Hill. We have a Patriarch. Those are the higher end wines. But our bread and butter, again, is our Napa Cabernet. But a high percentage is from Rutherford. We get some fruit out of Calistoga, about northern Napa. We use Mount Veeder, Howe Mountain. So we reach for this, and it's a definite quintessential Napa blend.
All right. Well, thank you so much for the overview. I think that is a very good kind of like snapshot of kind of everything that you guys have in the lineup. And I'm seeing comments about the Zinfandel out there and the Cabernet Sauvignon. We've got Sean Johnson asking, is there anything specifically about the Cab that is sort of unique, or what separates us from, you already went through kind of the fruit sourcing, what is the unique aspect of this wine as opposed to the many other Napa Valley Cabernets that are out there?
It's fun to compete at the Napa level, and everywhere in California level. So it's great. And the fun part about growing up I didn't grow up in the industry, but as soon as I got out of college, I came here. And so my adult life was grown up here. And some of my best friends are my friendly rivals and competitors. So we taste each other's wines a lot. Again, it goes back to that: make wines you want to drink, and a balance. For me, and this isn't unique, so I don't know if I'm answering the question, but it's very easy to pick underripe fruit, and it's very easy to pick overripe fruit. Those are the two easiest things I can do, I think. How do I hit the nail on the head every time? How do you bat 400? It just can't do it, but you try. And so I think that's our focus, is that balance, the purity, and then making ripe wines, but not underripe or not overripe, and retaining the fruit and respecting the variety in the region. I think respect and do your best, and then roll the dice.
Well, speaking of respect, doing your best, and rolling the dice, we'll address the elephant in the room. You, as we watch the fire maps, have been certainly, of our 3 producers today, although you're all affected, your property is certainly the closest to what we're seeing with the glass fire. And we have some questions here asking how the fires will impact the harvest. And of course, we're all mostly concerned with the safety of yourself and your staff and the winery, but the people that make these wines and bring them to us. Can you talk a little bit about what's going on out there and how you see this impacting 2020 harvest?
Sure. Well, we're getting good at couch surfing. I'm not in my house right now. I am in the Frank's house. So we're getting good at that, working. Again, the COVID, we thought it was bad with COVID. I'm learning how to use a laptop, what the Zoom thing is. I didn't hear about that until COVID. So the silver lining is we're kind of prepared for this. So we're all evacuated. We're all safe, which is great. The CAL FIRE, the first responders, the group, the police, the sheriffs have done a great job of getting people out of the way. Unfortunately, we've been dealing with this, so we're getting better every year. I don't know if we're ever going to be perfect at it, but we're getting better. So we're out of the way. We'll let them do their job. As far as our winery, I think it took a punch on Sunday night. Stories, and you'll hear lots of these stories. We're surrounded by vineyards, so we think we're safe. It's fine as far as the facility. And then next thing you know, the wind kicks up and the fire jumps a vineyard, and the Napa River runs right north to south up the valley, and it's full of dry brush. It's not that wet during the summer. And it just is like a fuse going up the valley. And 11:30, it's the OS moment. And you're like, holy cow. And then out of nowhere, the cavalry shows up. As you've probably heard, there's some other structures that were lost. And once they admitted they lost those, they circled the wagons around our place. And that gave me a lot of courage. And then I went home. So it's all yours, guys. And they did a great job. And so they're doing a great job. So we're getting through it. We're doing our best. The community is amazingly strong. We learned PG&E, which is our power company, will turn off the power. So we all have generators. We're learning how to deal. We're all on the phone all day. That's basically all I did today, is talking to growers, them talking to me. How are we going to deal with this? It's no different than a kid in the football field drawing plays up in the sand. We're doing that every day, and whatever play we drew up today, we're going to wipe it off tomorrow, and then we're going to figure it out and do whatever we can. The fact of the matter, nobody's making bad wines. Nobody's going to make a bad wine. We're not going to bottle a bad wine. So the wines will be great. But another fact, it'll be a reduced amount of wine. It won't be plentiful, but whatever gets in the bottle will be right. And Napa Valley and all of California is too important to not do that.
Absolutely. And I love that you say that, because there is a benchmark of quality that you guys stand behind. And I know that's true of all three of you guys tonight. So thank you for that. Last question from Kalpana is, how do you know when a grape is perfectly ripe? And is there a difference in telling the ripeness of a red versus a white grape?
Well, they can be very similar. And how I like to use another fruit that everybody knows. So pick a fruit tree in your backyard. Could be an apple, could be a peach. Those are two easy ones. We have all gone out to the backyard to pick an apple and it won't come off the tree. You got to pull on it. It's probably not ready. You know, you throw it against the wall. You play baseball with it. It's hard as a rock. You know, you do. And that's, you know, it's not ready. You bite into it and you hurt your tooth. And then conversely, we've all gone out a week or two later and they're on the ground or they're squishy and soft. Too late. It's when you hit that apple or peach and you bite into it and then there's juice all over your cheeks. It's pretty much ready. So you kind of do that with a grape. You tug on it. It's falling off. We all know what raisins taste like. We like to make wine out of grapes, not raisins. So we all know that's probably too late. We don't want a tartness to the wine either, or bitterness. So that's a little too hard. So we're all out there walking those vineyards. I mean, that's the most important decision I probably have every year, is walk a vineyard, taste the wine, work with the growers, work with the viticulturalists, and if the grapes are great, I mean, it's a cliche, I know, but if the grapes are right, our job down the road is a lot easier. And then we hope your job's easier, but it all starts with the guys and gals that are out under the sun all day and all night. So taste, and more taste. And it's no different than once the wine comes in the winery, taste, and more taste. And it's no different than us three tonight tasting each other's wines. Taste, and taste. You got to get your hands dirty, your tongue dirty. You got to get your tongue dirty.
Ooh, I love that. Get your tongue dirty, guys. I hope everybody is like halfway through their first glass and really starting to enjoy that. So yeah. Thank you so much. So before we go to Baron, this is really fun, you guys. We have some amazing swag and cool little giveaways that the winemakers and producers have provided for us. So I have some fun trivia. And the first question is, you can just put the response in the comments and then I'll reach out for you afterwards. If you get to it first, I'll send you something really fun from these guys. So what is the name of the mountain range that separates Sonoma County from Napa County? And this is a very good segue into the 1 hour drive between Todd at Frank Family in Napa over the hills to Barron in Sonoma County. So if you know the answer to what is the name of the mountain range that separates Sonoma from Napa, drop it in not the coastal range. Kurt, try again. So stew on that for a second, guys, and I will start our transition. So Barron, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure, yes, the Maya Kapana nailed that one. Well done. So we're taking a little drive now, and if you've ever done this drive, if you've gone up to wine country, it's a really beautiful curving, winding roads through the vineyards, and it's just a lovely, lovely drive from the northern part of Napa Valley. You're going now over towards Healdsburg in Sonoma County, and we are going to meet Baron Ziegler of Valravn Wines, but that's not all that Baron does. He also has a really cool import company called Valkyrie Selections. We also distribute those wines, so a lot of really phenomenal Spanish wines that I'm in love with, and a lot of cool stuff there. But since we are focused on California tonight, we are going to pull out our Valravn wines. So we have Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, Zinfandel, and Cabernet Sauvignon. And I'll let Baron tell us a little bit about what you're doing in Sonoma these days.
Hey guys, can you guys hear me? Okay, can you hear me? Yep. Mic check. Hello.
Gotcha.
Hello. Is anybody here? Mic check. Just kidding. Usually in these things, there's so much, like 5 minutes of like, am I on? Can you hear me? I am in my bathtub, and this is embarrassing, but it's my 4-year-old's birthday party, and there's a raging kid party going on downstairs. So the only place where I can actually find some peace is in the bathtub. So I'm upstairs in my bedroom in the bathtub. I apologize.
Well,
As
we
you can
all
see,
are
it's a
working
gorgeous
from
day.
home, so I think people can relate.
Yeah, there's no smoke in the air. It's a beautiful day. It's 92 degrees here in Healdsburg. I am in the capital of wine country here of Pinot Noir in the Northern California range, right west of the Mayacamas mountain range, which Pete is just around the corner, or not Pete, Todd is just right around the corner. You drive up north. Pete is 5 hours-ish south, I would say. And just a quick comment on these guys' wines. It's an honor to be part of this because both Pete and Todd, I really love both of their wines, and they are excellent producers. They are winemakers. I am not a winemaker, so I am not a formally trained winemaker. I have a team of amazing winemakers that have been working with me for years. I'm a wine taster, I guess it is. I'm passionate about wine. I got into it when I was 15 years old, and I was collecting at that age. And for some, I have no fucking idea why, but wine was something I wanted to get into, and I started buying Bordeaux futures at the age of 15. So wine collecting, being sort of a wine taster, and starting my MW program. I went through the whole WeSet program. I did all the like shit that you would do to get like a master's and a PhD in wine. That being said, I never really got into wine making. It was always wine sales, marketing, branding that really got me going. So what I've done over the years, just to give you a little bit of background about me and how we got to Valravn, is I worked for in wine retail in Boston for a number of years, and I worked in imports. I worked for a guy named Eric Solomon for a number of years, running his sales for a big import company. So I kind of learned how to sell imported wines, how to sell California wines. And then I started a small brand called Banshee Wines in 2009. So in 2009, I took all the money I had, which was $25,000 at the time, and I bought 8 barrels of Pinot Noir that were already made. It was sort of right post-crisis, and there was a great producer who I cannot mention who was saying, I can't sell my $90 Pinots anymore. Like, they just don't sell. And I said, you know what? I can sell wine. Let me buy some of these barrels that you're just going to bulk out to nobody, and I'll make a brand. And that's how I started Banshee Wines in 2009. And since then, we grew Banshee Wines here in Sonoma County for a number of years. And then I was able to grow to a point where it got too big for me. Rob was our winemaker, Rob Fisher, who's been my winemaker for 7 years now. Rob was making the Banshee Wines, and he and I sat down and were like, man, we make like 50,000 cases of Pinot Noir, and we're starting to lose like control. Starting to lose control of every grape, every vineyard, every site. We're starting to sort of get to the point where we can't really micromanage everything. And so we found a partner to partner with us in Banshee, Foley Family Wines. And so we were able to sort of take this beautiful, amazing brand. I don't know if anybody's had Banshee. Raise your hand out there if you've had Banshee. You better raise your fucking hand, buddy. Raise your hand. There it is. Nice. Crowd participation. I love it. Banshee was so big that I was like, all right, I gotta pass this off to somebody who's good at growing brands. So we passed it off to Foley Family Wines, who's a partner of mine now. And we started where we were 3 or 4 years ago. I was like, all right, we know all the best vineyards in Sonoma County. I know all the best Chardonnay growers and all the best Pinot Noir growers. Unlike Todd, we don't own any vineyards. Like I started this from nothing. I came from $0. I don't have any family money. I literally scrimped and saved and sold all my wine cellar in order to start the brand Banshee in 2009. So I literally had $0. And so the way that we work here in Sonoma is we buy grapes. We buy grapes from partners who are growers. And these growers own the land. They farm to our specifications, or we farm the land ourselves. But we really have this amazing like hand-in-hand relationship with our growers. And that's really the lifeblood of Sonoma County in general. There aren't a lot of big estates here in Sonoma County. It's a lot of, Gallo owns a lot, KJ owns a lot, Kendall Jackson. And then people like me just buy grapes from small growers. So it's a sort of a different model than what you find typically in the Napa Valley, where people tend to own more land. And so essentially what I said is, Rob, we have all these contacts with all the best vineyard growers. And as soon as we sort of segued Banshee to somebody else, they didn't want to work with a lot of the vineyards anymore because they had their own vineyards that they wanted to use. So all these vineyards said, hey, where are we going to sell these grapes next year? And that's when we started Valravn. We said, we know the best. We know where we're going to get our fruit. We know exactly how to do this. And we took what was a sort of a big group of like 42 vineyards that we used to use for Banshee, and we culled it down to the best 6. And the best 6 vineyards, the best quality, the best value, the best everything, that was what we used for Valravn. And so Valravn is really, it's kind of like after 10 years of learning how to make great value Pinot Noir, Cabernet, Chardonnay, and Zinfandel in Sonoma County, it's like we went to school and we got a PhD in how to make great value wine. And then we started with, okay, now let's start something new and do it with actual money behind us this time, rather than $25,000 in my Volkswagen Jetta 1985. So it's really what we have in the glass, and what our value, what we do as a brand, what I'm really, really passionate about. And this is something that sort of drives every decision I make with what we make in terms of wine. We want to be able to make the best fucking by the glass Pinot Noir, Cabernet, Zinfandel, Chardonnay that's out there. Making a great $80 bottle of wine is awesome, and it's so fun. And we have another brand called Marine Lair, which is brand new, which is high-end Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. So if you want to check out Marine Lair wines, check it out online. It's just launched. But making great expensive wine is easy because you can spend a lot of money on making it. Making really good by the glass, $20 to $25 anything from California, and I think both Todd and Pete can back me up on this, is really, really hard. And that's always been our forte, is making something that tastes like a $50 bottle that sells for like $20 or $25. So it's a labor of love, and we really put a lot of energy and effort into finding those vineyards, making that wine. We have a great community here. We love our friends in the Napa Valley. We love our friends down south. We're so lucky to be really in paradise. And as much as you all hear, the fires are burning, California's on fire. Like, yes, there are fires, but there's been fires in 3 of the last 4 years too. So we're dealing with that. And I know that, Napa Valley, Todd's got some imminent threats, but I personally have evacuated with my family 2 of the last 3 years. So, this has kind of become a bit of the norm, unfortunately for us. But we're working with it, and we are going to make some of the best wines we've ever made this year. This is outside of the fire, this is an extraordinary vintage here in Sonoma County and in the Sonoma Coast. And we are super excited to get those wines into the market in a couple of years. And, I'm so grateful for our partners like Montana and Maverick to really be there for us and to do these things, to focus on our wines, focus on our region, so that I can get out of my bathtub and start having a real house where I can do tastings. And look at this. I'm in a bathtub. This is insane. This doesn't make sense.
It looks like a really nice tub, actually.
It's a lovely tub. Lovely.
So Baron, tell us then, why Sonoma in particular? And then I would also like you to tell us about the name Valravn and sort of the genesis of that.
Yeah. So Sonoma, because Burgundy is what I love. Pinot Noir, Chardonnay is my thing. I love Cabernet in the right situation. I love Zinfandel. I love Grenache. I love all varieties. But really, my passion as a drinker and as a wine, I was a wine educator for a while. I love great Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. And when we started out here, it was really a hobby. My first bottling of Banshee was just for fun. And I was like, I'm just spend the whole idea. And this is a funny story. The whole idea behind Banshee was, I'm going to make enough money on these 8 barrels of wine to take a vacation to Hawaii. That was it. That was my entire intention. I had a great day job. I was working for Eric Solomon. I was national sales director. I had a great gig. And the only thing was, I'm going to bottle this wine, which is insanely good. I'm going to sell it. And then I'm going to make this much money. And it's just enough to cover my trip to Hawaii. And the true story is, I bottled the wine and I showed it to my first customer, my distributor in Boston. And he said, he smelled it. He's like, how much is this? I said, yeah, it's this. How much did you make? I was like, I made 200 cases. He's like, we'll buy it all. It's like, you want to buy it all? Right now? He's like, yeah, we'll buy it all. We'll give you a check for it so you can go back and you can buy some more from your buddy. So the first vintage of wine I ever made, I didn't make. I actually bought from somebody else. And then it rolled into something that just was successful from day one. So this was never a plan. This was never like a strategy. It literally was, I've just gotten really fucking lucky every single time. And I continue to roll the dice, which I'm rolling on Valravn now. And it seems to continue to work out because we work hard. We know wine. I never put something in the bottle that isn't better than everything, in my opinion, everything out there at the price point. And that's a passion of ours. And that's why I think this is successful and why it's been successful. And really the culmination of that is what you have in your glass right now with the current vintages of Valravn. It's 12 or 13 years worth of making wine in a really value oriented way and perfecting sort of our craft in that regard.
And the name?
And the name, so I went to school in Boston, and I have a weird penchant for like deathly things. Like I have a company called Valkyrie, which is like a weird death spirit. Banshee is another like death spirit. Like, I don't know. I come up with these weird names, and Valravn is it's a bird spirit. So the bird on the front, that photo on the front, it's a painting, is from my favorite art museum in Boston. I used to go in college. I'd go over to this museum and just walk around every Sunday and kind of just get some peace and comfort. And it was called the Isabella Gardner Stewart Museum. And that painting is a Danish artist that did that painting. And I just basically stole it and put it on the front of the Valravn label. But a Valravn is a bird in the Danish folklore that essentially is like the Grim Reaper. It shepherds people from life to death. Dark,
well,
I know.
For that, Banshee too was kind of a dark, weird.
Totally dark. I have no idea.
Just
I have
a
some weird. I'm a little bit crazy.
No, we're all a bit mad, right? Appreciating wines really helps kind of quell that, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, look at me. I've got this in my bathtub. How
Yeah,
good is life for me? I like death stuff. I got this. I don't need anything more than this. It's like a clownfish. Kidding me? It's how I clean.
Fill your glass up before you get in there.
I know.
Okay, well, leaving Baron behind in his tub for now. We'll be back to him. But we are going to hop back in the car, and we've got about a 5-hour drive-ish south to see Peter. And I have been wanting so badly to go and see this tasting room and visit Ballard Canyon. I had a really cool experience with Matt Deese at Honada, which is sort of a neighbor. And I know you guys share the same vineyard manager, Ruben. I don't know his last name, pardon me, Peter. But it's such a cool thing to watch kind of from afar, because tonight is actually the first time I've ever met Peter. And usually I get more FaceTime, but, given the travel situation this year, it hasn't happened. So usually Peter would be coming to market. I think he was supposed to be here in March, he said, and it didn't happen. So I'm so happy to present him to you guys here tonight and to me so that we can learn about the wines from Stolpman. I love what you're doing. I find it to be such a refreshing, and of course his hat says so fresh, and that's going to lead into the story, but the approach that you take to wine and the culture of wine is lovely. And I've got some crunchy roasty on hand here, so it's been in the fridge. I really just am so excited to taste this wine and hear a little bit about what you do down south in Ballard Canyon, just for people to give you a little reference. You're getting closer to Santa Barbara down here, and it's a very unique outcrop of limestone that Peter will tell us all about. So Peter Stolpman.
Hey everybody, it's really cool for me to be on a Zoom with such storied producers from Northern California. Down here in Santa Barbara County, we think of Napa and Sonoma as the epicenter of wine in America, and we're just little upstarts down here. The very first post-Prohibition vineyard was planted in 1972 here in Santa Barbara County. So we're way behind what happened back 100, 150 years ago up in Napa Valley and then Sonoma. And we kind of have that underdog spirit down here where we're the new kids, but we're really excited about what we're doing. So Santa Barbara is primarily known for Pinot Noir and Chardonnay, kind of like Sonoma. We are right on the coast. What's interesting about our area, and which is pretty unique, we are completely unsheltered from the coast, from the ocean. So we're out on the corner of California. If you look at California, it's shaped like this. So a fun fact, if you're in Lake Tahoe, you're actually west of San Diego. So if you look at our interior border with Nevada, there's a big corner. Well, we're on the outside corner. So when you're in Santa Barbara, the city, you're actually looking south when you're on the beach. And a lot of people get bummed out because most of the year you don't get any sunset at most Santa Barbara beaches. But then you go over that east-west mountain range that creates Point Conception or Big Corner, and then you're in wine country. So we're in a big open chute to the ocean. That's a really cold ocean out there. My head winemaker, Kyle Knapp, actually got attacked by a great white shark directly west of us back in 2008 when he was our assistant winemaker. And there's a saying that if you're going to grow wine near the ocean, it should be a cold ocean and there should be white sharks there, because white sharks like cold water. So we have the Arctic flow of Pacific Ocean coming down and hitting Point Conception, and all that cold air is flowing into us. So it's really windy. Even though we get quite warm in the middle of the day, our temperatures drop down 40 degrees on average. So that helps us retain acidity and brightness. But that little peak heat gets us pretty darn ripe and yummy and juicy too. So my dad fell in love with wine when he was a teenager, kind of like Barron. And he was crazy enough to buy what was a very hilly cattle ranch. So these beautiful crowns of hills, 55 oak trees, 220 acres in an area called Ballard Canyon. There were no successful vineyards in Ballard Canyon. One guy had tried in the 70s and he went under. That was the old Ballard Canyon winery. So my dad was the maverick of Ballard Canyon. He started planting in 1992. Luckily, he sold our fruit to two incredible winemakers, Manfred Krenkel of Sinequinon and Adam Tolmack of Ojai Vineyards. That was back at the height of the power for wine critics, right? This is pre-internet. So consumers use, these paper things, magazines and pamphlets with, 0 to 100 point scores to figure out what wines they wanted to buy. And luckily for us, the folks who bought the fruit from us back in the 90s hit it out of the park with the critics, 95 points, 100 points. And that created the Syrah planting frenzy of Ballard Canyon. So my dad had planted 4 different grapes and Syrah just knocked it out of the park. And we planted more Syrah. And then other folks came in and bought all the cattle ranch land around us and planted more Syrah. And before we knew it, we became the only American viticultural area dedicated to Syrah. So that was really cool. Of course, I was growing up through this whole thing, going to high school, off to college. But one interesting thing that happened was my dad only thought he would be a grower. So he just wanted to grow world-class fruit and sell it to, guys like Barron who would make great wine. But 2 things happened. Number 1, my dad only was interested in limestone. From his research into the world of wine, he fell in love with wines from limestone, and that's what he wanted. But limestone's really infertile. So our vineyard was never going to be high yielding. With fine wine, almost always there's an inverse ratio, quantity versus quality. So we were happy to get low yields of amazing fruit. The problem was that we weren't in Sonoma, we weren't in Napa, and our winemaker partners are willing to pay a big premium for our fruit, but not enough of one to justify our low yields, especially because my dad, one thing that I'm really proud of, my dad from day one mandated only full-time employment. So unlike a lot of the vineyards that he got to know as he researched, who used migrant labor for pruning in the winter and then again in harvest in the fall, my dad had a moral problem with that because he knew enough about migrant culture that it's not just the workers traveling around pruning and harvesting different crops and then harvesting grapes, but it's the whole family traveling around California and even all over the West Coast. And the problem with that is that the second generation, the children, don't stay in one place, they don't get an education. So they don't have the chance of the American dream. Our feeling is that people come to America, they work their butts off, and then their kids have the options to do whatever they're going to do. So my dad told Ruben, our vineyard manager, let's figure out a way. Speaking of the new generation, I just got a visitor in here. This is Otto. He's the one. Say hi, Otto. Say hi. Hi. Who is that? Yeah.
Hey, bud. That's history making.
This is my wife, Jessica.
Hi.
So my dad told Ruben, let's figure out a way to employ full-time year-round. And Ruben ran with that idea. It was a privilege for him to be able to promise people full-time employment. So he was able to get the best workers, promising them a full career. And that program evolved. Ruben started giving them a quadra, a block of the vineyard, that the crew would proactively farm on their own and become the farmer, not just the worker. And then we began bottling the wine for the crew to enjoy. That became a profit sharing program. Flash forward to 2009 when I took over. So right in the heart of the recession that Baron mentioned, we had a nice little letter from Wells Fargo that said, basically to paraphrase, hey, Stolpman Vineyards, unfortunately, we bet big on subprime mortgages. So we're kind of in big trouble. We're not going to renew any small business credit lines in your category. So yeah, come February, we need all that money back. And we responded, well, all that money is tied up in barrels and bulk wine and, you know, sorry. So my first year and a half of taking over the company, we're in default of Wells. We finally got refinanced, and Jess and I went down to Jalisco with Ruben and his family, and I got to hang out with everybody. All my crew goes back to Mexico over Christmas. And at the time, we only had 15 full-time employees, but I probably hugged and shook hands with 1,500 people. And as an employer, you know that, you know, money is being sent home to grandma, you know, every couple of weeks. But it was just amazing to meet all these people who took pride in what their nephew or their niece or their cousin was doing. They knew my story, they knew Jess's story. And we were drinking a lot of tequila. And at one point I had clarity and I said, Ruben, we need to make the Quadrilla program way bigger. Because at the time it was just the wine from the little training block. And we had 2009 wine still in barrel. I said, Ruben, let's make the Quadrilla brand. There it is right there. I don't know if you can read it. 10% of our production per year. And all the profits go back to our workers. So I think that's one thing that kind of guarantees a benchmark of quality for us, is that we have this passionate, dedicated workforce that is out there in the vineyard. They know every vine, they know every hill. We work the vines only by hand. We don't do any mechanized hedging or anything like that. So I feel like you can taste the passion in the vineyard. And as the other gentlemen have noted, I mean, if you have great fruit, winemaking becomes really easy. So yeah, that's really kind of what we're all about. The evolution of our brand has gone from just making our straws, which I hope everybody is enjoying, to making what we call the So Fresh brand. And So Fresh is buoyed by Love You Bunches. And the pun of Love You Bunches is that we're utilizing carbonic fermentation. So we have to be very loving with each bunch. All carbonic fermentation means is we never want to break the grape. We want the yeast to actually penetrate inside and ferment whole. So if you look at the other way of making wine, the traditional way of making red wine, the first thing we want to do is break apart everything, macerate everything to get color, to get texture, to get depth, body. So if you're fermenting whole grape with carbonic fermentation, you're going to make a lighter wine that doesn't have the tannin, the dry tannin from the skin. The benefit of not having tannin is we can drink red wine cold. If you've ever gotten like a beautiful Frank family wine called the Cab too cold, that tannin becomes really pronounced, I find. But without tannin, making these light chilled wines, you can drink them cold all day, all night. The other really cool thing is we can pick really early. So the earlier question to Todd was about ripeness, and he hit the nail on the head with just the texture of the fruit. And we can pick crunchy, right? Because we're not going to extract that hard, coarse tannin of perhaps a grape that would be perceived as a bit underripe if we were making traditional red wine. We like the skin just to soften a bit. If we're going to crush those skins, is what we want a finer tannin. But if we're never going to extract, we can pick earlier, and that translates to a lower alcohol, higher acidity, and a bit more refreshing. And my favorite word for these wines is mashable. So the So Fresh brand is actually our largest producing brand that we have. We also have a really funky brand. I don't know if anybody's seen this in Colorado, Home is just esoteric, kind of sommelier-driven, weird brand focused on the grape Trousseau from Jura, and we do a little bit of Chenin Blanc. So we're very busy. Coming in, taking over an estate vineyard when you're 27 years old, it's a little bit dangerous because just every idea we think is compelling, we go out and do. So there's a lot going on here at Stolpman. Come out and visit and check out all of the crazy projects we have going on. We have 4 or 5 things planted in the vineyard that we haven't yet made wine out of that I'm really excited. So a young growing region with a lot of young people making wine. And I feel like I'm proud of what we're doing right now, but every vintage, I feel like we're getting better and better and better. So if you like the wine now, you'll love it.
Like, Peter, your wines have given me this newfound love for carbonic macerated wines. I've always been a massive fan of Beaujolais and just like loving that kind of fresher light style that you can drink chilled. And I love this in the wines that you're making. And Baron also imports a wine from Valkyrie Selections called Los Conejos Malditos, which is the bad bunnies. And that's a carbonic Tempranillo that's just like so fun, and the label is amazing. It's like a tied up rabbit, which is hilarious. But do you think we have a question here, and I just kind of wanted to like jump on top of that because I really am such a fanatic of these. But do you think that more wineries will start producing this style of wine? I mean, based on what you're hearing, I know that's been a niche for you, and we are so grateful for that. But I've seen more and more like people kind of transitioning to this chillable red style and finding a new love for it, because I think before it was kind of poo-pooed, like, it's my mom putting ice cubes in her red wine and I'm kind of like pulling my hair out, but these are wines that are made in that style and intended to be drunk that way. So do you hear like buzz about that? And I would love to hear about this from any of the other producers as well, because we're going to kind of get into a roundtable anyway. So let me know what you think.
I guess I'll lead off. I mean, number one, these are the wines that I want to drink 90% of the time. So as Baron mentioned, like, and I think Todd mentioned as well, like we're all making wines that we want to drink, right? And I think that's number one. And there are other wineries making these wines. Other winemakers want to drink them too. So, I can think of 5 or 6 other wineries just here in Santa Barbara County that are making carbonically fermented wines. And I'm proud that I feel like we've led the charge here in Santa Barbara at least. But secondly, I think these wines are part of a larger macro trend. And I think Alice Faring coined the term Parkerization, right? But back in the mid-90s through the mid-2000s, wineries reacted to the amazing press of getting 99, 100-point scores, and the critics were rating only the wines that were massive and huge and burly and mouth-filling, almost overwhelming. And you can't blame them, right? If you're drinking 100 wines a day, the wines that stand out just have to explode. And so I think there's this big counter trend and I think it happened first in Australia, where people realized, well, these Shirazes are just too ripe, too high octane. People just stopped buying them, and Australia has had to adapt to that, right, and change up their style. But I think it's happening worldwide, where there's this counter trend. For a while, everybody was making bigger, more powerful wines. And now we're going the other direction. So, I think the pendulum will eventually come back to the classic. But the third issue is that there's a generational shift in wine drinking, right? Baby boomers are getting older, their cellars are full. And the new millennials, they're addicted to their phones, as I am. They don't necessarily care about one authority, and they want to explore. They want to try new, different things from all over the world. And these wines are just delicious, and the kids are open to geeky things like carbonic fermentation. So sorry, that was a long answer, but I'll let everybody chime in.
No, I'll jump in next. And first of all, as probably the most traditionalist here in Napa style, if that's what you want to call it, I appreciate all styles. And so I think it's super fun. And when I got out of college in the 80s, my first job was at Phelps. We were doing that then. And it goes through a cycle, and then it goes, but it's great to come. I mean, I did a vintage in Australia. There was a guy, Hickabotham, who that's all he did was carbonic. And he invented a system with bins with plastic bags. So you never dumped them into a tank. You just sealed the bag. You picked it, put it in the bag, done. And then I was too young to know what I was doing. I was just cheap labor. And then we dumped it into the press and made these wines. It was fun. And I mean, Beaujolais has been here forever. So it's fun to go that roller coaster you're talking about, Peter, and make as many styles as you want. And again, I'm sitting here on this Cabernet Chardonnay perch, but that's not what I don't drink these every night. I want to drink all wines, and if we all travel, we're lucky. That's what probably brought us to this business is flavor and travel. And when in Rome, you drink Rome, and wherever Rome is, that's what you drink, and have fun with it. So that's fun. And again, I can't speak that we do a lot of that, but that's our rouge. It's the same thing. It's a red, sparkling champagne style wine that actually has acidity. It's not. We made it for that reason. We didn't just take a red wine and put bubbles in it. We made it sparkling, but it's not a sparkling Shiraz. It's not something from Portugal, a Tinta from Portugal or from Spain. It's champagne style, sparkling Pinot Noir. And it's super fun. And enjoy. I mean, it's there to be enjoyed. So that at the end of the day, that's what we're here for.
Exactly. We're all here to have fun. And really that's what brought us all to this business. And that's what brings everybody that's watching to buy the wines and have some new opportunity to discover something they didn't know before. So maybe you don't know a whole lot about winemaking, and we talk about carbonic maceration or something like that. But if it does nothing more than pique your interest in learning more, then we're doing our job here, right, guys? I mean, that's what it's all about. And the idea of being able to taste multiple wines from multiple producers side by side from multiple regions of California provides you with an opportunity that you don't normally have, where if you pull a cork, taste the wine, nothing's wrong with it, you're going to drink and enjoy it. But now you get to have the experience of Napa Valley, Sonoma County, then down to Ballard Canyon, and see these things and how they're different, but how they're also all wonderful and congruent in the same way. So California, what do you guys think is, what do you see as like the future of California in the next 10, 20 years? Maybe that's too far, but you guys are boots on the ground there. You're all very active in what you do. And what do you think is happening out there overall? From a wine perspective.
Sure. I'll start, again, and it's not new. It's old, but we're getting better. We're farming better, just farm really well. And everybody, we've got hordes of people. I love Peter's got this crew that just stays with them. We all try to do that. We're probably not the same level as they are. We have a good core, but we have people coming in and out, but farm better, just farm really well, be smart. We do what's right, just keep doing what's right. And at the end of the day, the vineyards are great, the wine will be great, and we'll be good. And then we'll be able to, and people enjoy the wines. We're doing this for your customers. Like I said, I don't buy any of our wines. I drink them, but I don't buy them. We're doing it for somebody else, and we hope we're doing a good job. And you have to be smart doing it. So I think that helps. Doing what's right for the environment, doing what's right for the workers. And it's great. I've been with Frank family for 18 years now, and I used to joke that I was the new employee because I walked into a place where we had people there who 5 years before me. So we've got families here working for us, and it's all about society and community.
It really is all about the people, and that's why I think this format works. We have, COVID has provided everybody with a lot of introduction to like the virtual wine tasting experience, but what we're trying to do with all of you guys and in creating these events is that it really is about the people and the place and the vineyards and the winemaking practices and the things that you guys are putting into it, as opposed to just what you find in the bottle. Because without the people and the soul, effort, and energy that you guys put in, the wine doesn't matter. And we can all drink a mass-produced wine, and there's no soul in that. And wine is alive. I mean, every vintage is different. Every time it's different. You're not going to get the same bottle twice, even if it's from the same vintage. We all know that. Bottle variation happens too. But when you dedicate yourself to your team, I was just at Frank Family a couple weeks ago, got to see it, and the whole team is there. The Franks are there, Todd's there. He's the general manager as well as the winemaker. There's no division between the people putting their energy into the wines that you're drinking, and it's really important. And I know Baron does this in Spain and across like front to back, and we've bonded over this, and it's really important, and that's why we're here. So Baron, what do you see as far as, I think you should tell everybody a little bit about what you do out in Spain, actually, because I think it's so interesting, and kind of the dichotomy, or maybe there's a difference or a similarity between that and California, and a little bit about the Valkyrie selections.
Yeah. So, you know, I cut my teeth in European wine, and that's really, really where I know the wineries, the people, the winemakers better than even in California. So our portfolio of imported wines is, it's great, again, great value, stuff that, you know, producers I've known for 20 years, some of them, and it's the small family farms in, you know, from Galicia over to Barcelona, up to, you know, Burgundy, over to, you know, the Loire Valley. So it's, and even now England, we have 2 sparkling producers from England who are exceptional, really exciting. And it sort of makes it interesting for me, because, you know, if I had to work with just 2 varietals or 3 or 4 varietals from one area, I'd get so fucking bored so fast. So for me, it's like, okay, I can go look at, I'm going to Portugal in 3 weeks to look at some amazing Alvarinho vineyards, and it allows for me to translate what I love to do, which is taste wine, find value, scout for talent in terms of producers and winemakers, and then take those products and market them and sell them in, you know, little restaurants, independent retailers all across the country. It sort of gives me more channels and more avenues. And I think, you know, the question about where the wine industry is going, I will be honest, and I'm terrified. I'm scared that White Claw and all these people who are young are not drinking wine the way that people in my age and Pete's age and even Montana, your age, drink. They're not coming up and wanting to try a new, you know, glass of $13 Chardonnay. Instead, they're ordering White Claw, or they're ordering a cocktail. So I'm really scared about what this generational shift means. And, you know, one big concern for me, and something that Pete's done really well, is to try and get people with their brands into wine, to try the wine instead of trying the mango shitty White Claw. You know, even though it's going to be more expensive, even though it's a bigger risk financially, you will be rewarded. And I don't know. It's the one thing people ask me. I'm like, I have no fucking idea how to get people into wine, because we do what we do. We do it well. We all do what we do very well. But if people aren't taking a chance to try the wine in the first place, they're not going to know if they like the wine, and they're not going to buy it again. So this kind of stuff is so valuable, because I think it taps into an economy of people that might just go have a gin and tonic or a White Claw. So that to me is the biggest fear. We'll continue to make amazing wine. You know, like Todd said, the farming is getting better and better. You know, biodynamics or organics is kind of becoming the normal, which is amazing. The Roundup isn't everywhere like it used to be. So the product is only going to get better, but we need the people out there to come and buy it, and to try it, and to taste it, and to pay for a glass of wine instead of buying a shitty cocktail at a bar. And that to me is sort of my fear for the future, my fear and my hope.
Well, I think the thing that's interesting is that, you know, wine people tend to be very dedicated to wine, and they're always usually very willing to share their time, effort, and energy to like kind of bring people into the fold. So I've kind of been the person in my like social circles, even my family, whatever, and in my industry, to be like, here's an accessible version of a wine experience. Because very often, and I think this is dying, but there's kind of that sommelier culture where people feel like they go into a restaurant, it's like the guy that knows everything, and I'm over here and I don't know anything, and I don't know how to ask questions, and I don't know how to approach this topic. And I know for a fact that my dad still takes the Wine Spectator magazine and puts Post-it notes in it and stuff, and I'm over here ripping my hair out like, come on, Pop, like, come on, we can do better than that. Let's talk about some of the cool wines out there. You might not find them in that magazine. And that is kind of something that people are graduating away from, because people that are in this millennial generation, I guess I'm part of it, is we're more interested in what our friends and cohorts recommend to us than what necessarily Parker thinks is great. So it does come from like the people on the call and yourselves and all of us sharing the stories of the wines, introducing people to what's good. And it's so funny because they might order a White Claw, but if you put this wine in front of them, they will go, holy shit, that's delicious. And you certainly will win a fan. And when people feel empowered with something, they go back to it. So it kind of becomes a snowball effect, but you have to get them into that fold the first time, and then they stay with you. So that's the uphill battle, and I'm willing to help you push that boulder up the hill all day and every day.
Aaron, good job on getting Alvarinos out here in this world.
Yeah, man.
Love them. I spent 5 years of my young life doing the Flying Winemaker gig into Portugal. So fun story and it sounds like you've done it and done well at it. I always bought the Vinho de Casa, wherever you were at. You ate. Somebody said they made the wine in the basement. Okay, give me a glass. I don't care. I'm just eating dinner here. And as I'm traveling through the north of Portugal, all of a sudden the wines went from terrible to really good. And it was like, why are these white wines really good? And back, an hour away, those weren't so good, or 2 hours away, or a day away, they weren't so good. And it came down to that variety. So that's a great opportunity. So there's something new. Do that here too. If we can find the right spot for that, I love that.
Well, and let's say this, I think California is a place that so many consumers are very comfortable with. It's like California wine, of course. Napa, Sonoma, Ballard Canyon might be something new to them, but that's a very comfortable space. And we like to be the gateway to new things. And, once you love wine, you can appreciate all wines like we all do. And I think a lot of people on the call can see that as well. So you start to have an interest in the high-tone, beautiful Chardonnay from Frank family. You start to go, hey, what else is there out there? Because there's a lot out there. And I mean, Albarino is the tip of the iceberg. That's just one little variety. It's a world of wine. So we promise to keep on bringing you guys these things. Gentlemen, is there anything you'd like to say in closing? Is there anything else we should mention before we sign off?
No, make it interactive. If there's more questions, keep them coming.
I was going to go there. Is anyone have questions? Drill these guys. Ask them about their plumbing. I don't care.
Thank you for your energy and your enthusiasm.
It's a pleasure of my life.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. This is awesome. We appreciate you guys taking the time to do this with us.
I look forward to sharing a glass of wine with you guys.
Yeah, totally.
Let's see. Rachel is actively yelling at her niece to scrap her shitty White Claw. She does agree that Sean's wine is from Torelli's, which is one of our retailers, is preferred choice. So again, it goes back to that. They've got the White Claw in hand, but again, you put the good wine in their hand and they're like, oh, the little thing goes off. And if you don't enjoy drinking malt liquor and waking up feeling like you're 17, except your hangovers don't hit the same way when you're old. But yeah, it is really about conversion. We got to get people onto these high quality wines that they can change your life if you let them.
How are the good folks at Applejack's?
They're doing good. They're hanging in with us. They've opened a new store, so we have distribution. I was gonna say coast to coast, but we don't have it here. Okay, so Calpano would like to know, what is the best wine to drink in the tub and why?
I mean, a tub full of champagne, there's nothing better than that.
Oh, you just fill the tub up, okay.
Just fill it up, like drinking the champagne as you fill it up. Oh, magic. So magical. It's expensive, but it's worth it. Maybe Cava, because it's cheap.
Pete, do you have a tub wine?
I concur with champagne. Actually, one of my favorite movies is The Big Short. And I love the scene with that beautiful model in her Malibu tub. And at the end of her quick cameo, she goes, okay, now fuck off. Yeah, champagne is definitely a tub wine.
This may be the only time 3 winemakers agree on anything. So I think champagne.
If the world does come to an end, I'm sure we'll all be popping bottles of grower champagne without a doubt.
Yeah, one quick note. I saw a question about what the magnums of Quadrilla are about. And if anybody's familiar with the profit sharing program, but the label changes every year. So that's Ruben, and Ruben's the godfather of both my boys. And not only is he our vineyard manager, but he's just an amazing dude. But he had promised to get the Quadrilla label in the 2016 vintage tattooed, and he never did. So to get back at him for breaking his promise, with 18 vintage, we put him in full sleeves and everything, with really uplifting, cool tattoos. Si se puede, yes you can. But we do magnums now every year with this label, because as we all know, magnums age forever. So this is our way of giving Ruben tattoos for life. And so we call it El Padrino de la Quadrilla, the godfather of the crew. And it's our favorite lot of the greater Quadrilla blend. And yeah, 6-pack magnums. I don't know if Maverick I think Maverick brought in a few of them so far, but yeah, they're definitely available in Colorado.
And I wanted to say to all of you guys watching, please, by all means, if there are wines that you would like to try or that you haven't found yet from these producers, as you start to become more familiar and research these guys, please shoot an email to marketing@maverickwineco.com. I'll put it in the comments. Send us an email. Tell us about your favorite tub wine. And tell us what you're looking for, because we can, if your retailer doesn't have it, we can get it to them. So just let us know what you're trying to find, and we'll make sure that it gets into the right hands, because those hands are yours. And we'll bring in some of these magnums and some of this fun stuff for sure. All right, well, I will also download the recording of this. So if you guys want to revisit any of the content, please, by all means do. And we will create something fun for you in October, which is tomorrow, which is crazy. But once again, to circle back, I just want to say ultimate gratitude to the 3 of you guys for taking the time to be here with us tonight. It's so special to share your wines and your stories with us. And I know there's a lot going on. We're all praying for the fires, and we're all praying for the wines, because in wine we trust. And we just wish you all well, and we're so full of gratitude for everything that you guys do, and we'll keep on waving the flag here in Colorado for you.
Great, right back at you. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone watching.
Thanks so
Enjoy
much.
your evenings, and we'll see you next month.
Okay, cheers.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Have a good one. Enjoy the birthday party, Baron.